Hello and wakey bakey BitMonger family, Monger with you here today, coming at you from beautiful Thailand. And in today's video I'm going to talk about Bitcoin's price action, a recent trade I made, and I'm also going to be looking at some extremely risky plays on some shitcoins that I think could catch a narrative again in the future based upon a video that I watched today, or actually it was the other day, of Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia. He was at the World Economic Forum on stage with the Larry Finkster of BlackRock. You know, these are the puppet masters, guys. And this guy basically was laying out how basically AI is going to disrupt society, and the layers and the importance of, power generation, the importance of compute power, GPUs, leasing GPUs, infrastructure development, and how it is just going to be freaking huge. And I agree with it. I think we can't deny where we're going. You can't stop the technology, and it is going in that direction. It's going to be a massive disruptor. The writing's been on the wall. Luckily I bought Nvidia stock a long time ago, but I'm looking for proxies, and I'm looking at things in which I could, potentially leverage, some little shit coins that could rip in the future, based on a long-term play. Highly risky though. These things could also go to zero. So none of this is financial advice, guys. This is just what I'm thinking and how I'm going to position myself going forward. So before we get into those things though, let's go ahead and take a quick look at Bitcoin action, and I'll show you also my trade that I did recently. So we can see Bitcoin is currently trading at $89,650, and it's, just lingering right around that 90K mark. I suspected that could happen, and that's what we're seeing playing out. These are key points on the chart that I'm looking at, guys. If you move this over, let's see this over here. These are key points that I'm looking at on the mark. On the very bottom, I'm looking at 85K. That's the red line. The orange line here, you can see it is at basically 87K. The green mark here is at 90K, and then 93K and 98K, basically. And a key point that I'm looking at right now is 91.5. I really want to see it get above 91.5 to confirm some sort of breakout. If we look at the lows here, though, we can see that we are getting higher lows as it's going up, and that's a good sign. That's bullishness. So because of that, I did pull a long position recently on Bitcoin, and I entered my trade right here, because you could see this wick came down and then it snapped back up to the candle body right exactly at that mid zone of this zone that I had established long ago, in which we were trading. I'm looking at the daily chart. We could also see it wick down here below and snap back up, and the candle went right to that midpoint. So what I did is I longed it like right around 88,690, I think the number was, and then I wrote it up, and when it rolled over and it started to look like it was going back under 91K is where I exited the position, and boom, made a nice chunk of dough. That just paid for my new tires that I just bought for my car and a sushi lunch. So that was a nice little sweet trade. I'm out of it. I do have orders back in. I will be looking to try to enter it again at that same value, and like between there, I got two staggered orders right around 88.7 and 88.5, and if it breaks below those, well then I will put a bid down here, around 87K to look to long it from it bouncing off that support. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. Oh, Jensen Huang. In this video, guys, I'll put the link in the description. He talks about how important AI is going to be needed for all these types of, compute power. And there's two coins that I'm interested in when it comes to computing and rendering images and videos and these types of things that we see AI doing now. You know, I believe that we'll most likely see at some point something like, you know, Hollywood movies being made through AI. I mean, I can completely see it happening, and it's going to probably improve, and they'll be able to, you know, put actors in there that didn't even act, but they got the imagery from them, so they'll just be able to slip them in. Maybe these people will, you know, lease their, I don't know how that's going to work, but anyways, it's coming down the pipe, that's for sure. Man, it's busy in the hood right now. We got a lot of Swedish tourists here right now. You know, in about another month or so, it will be slow again and back to its peaceful rhythm. But right now is the high season here in Thailand, so I'm getting a lot of motorbikes because I got a lot of Swedish tourists here now. Anyways, let's get back to what I was talking about. So, the two plays that I want to talk about. The first one is, guys, is this coin called Render. And Render, if you're not familiar, is a DEPIN play. This is part of that decentralized physical infrastructure. And this thing has got some big partnerships, and it's got GPUs. It's sidestepped into leasing out its GPU usage, which is a big deal. And I could see this one. It's got some pump. It did hit up to like $14 at one point, so that's a huge runner from here. Currently trading at $2. But these are the zones that I would be looking at to acquire at if on a dump. I'm looking at like right around $1.80, $1.75, and down here between $1.25 and $1.30. If I could buy it in these prices, I figure that would be a really treat. Even at $2, probably, you know, if you're long-term hold, and if it even gets, you know, near its all-time highs, we can see it got up to like $12 in December 24. You know, if we get that hype coming back around again, which I believe we will, you know, this thing could actually, you know, pull a nice ripper. So I'm going to be nibbling on this one. The other coin that I like is called Akash, and basically it's like a cloud computing along with GPU leasing usage, which Jensen Huang talks about how all these, you know, they're going to be needing all this power to render these GPUs, and these decentralized networks offer massive savings, guys. I'm talking huge amounts. And I'm looking at this through, Jensen Huang talked about how all these other countries should be developing their own stuff. And to be honest, you know, to operate these things, it costs a lot of money. So in order for these people, a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford, you know, cloud compute, Amazon, AWS, you know, Azure, or whatever their, you know, options are. So they're going to be looking at these things, and I think that these things will catch a bid. Also, these things can be, you know, added in addition to additional power on other types of big systems. So I don't see how this could, how this goes wrong, based on what the trend that we're seeing in the adoption of AI and the amount of power that's going to be needed to create and render models and answer questions and inference. Inference is a big thing. Both of them are massive players in helping when it comes to powering inference. So I think this is huge. Akash is also working, it's not, you know, contracted, but it does work with Nvidia, primarily through integrations. It talks about it right here. I looked it up. So, you know, it's, you know, helping to provide support. You know, there was an acquisition by Nvidia into this place called BrevDev, and that is integrated with Akash, and it's using its GPU resources. So these things, guys, I'm telling you, you know, look at who they're working with, look at who they may not have an official partnership, but their infrastructure is integrated into these things. And that, to me, is bullish as hell. And then I also asked about cost savings. And it comes down here, and it says right here, overall GPU heavy AI workloads, Akash frequently delivers 70 to 90% savings. making it attractive for startups, developers, and enterprise facing high centralized cloud bills and limited access due to Nvidia hardware. So guys, I look at this, and Render is doing similar stuff. I look at those two, and I'm thinking, makes sense to me. I'm going to be looking for this one to dump, and I'll be looking to acquire these two tokens. I won't be, betting the farm on them, but am I worth it? Seems worth it to me. I mean, these things, if that catches on, that AI narrative comes back around, and we see these developing nations and countries and universities or whatever that don't necessarily need the top shelf, compute of Azure and Google and these other ones, I think it catches a bid. I think it starts to gain access, and I think it also works as a backup to these other systems in which they can be integrated, which they are already doing. I think it's bullish, guys. So anyways, that's what I'm thinking about in terms of this AI play, in terms of our shitcoins and how you might want to be looking at it. Again, this is not financial advice. I strongly recommend you do your research, look into it deeply before you make any kind of, investments. And like I say in my description, always consult a financial advisor. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I'm just a wakey-bakey stoner hanging out on a sofa in Thailand. But I've been successful doing what I do, and hopefully that continues. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Monger on.